Hey, what's up, guys? It's Vel here with a brand new build, Trap Saboteur. So, traps is an archetype that I've never played before, but after playing this build, I think I'm going to be playing some more traps in the future. Ice Trap has this big AoE that can be thrown in the center of packs, making it great for mapping. Throw a few traps, you move on, anything that doesn't die will be chilled and frozen for you to just finish off. For bosses, you can stack traps at the beginning, you can stack them in between phases or during the fight whenever you get the chance, and you can have over 20 traps out at a time, all for single target damage. Traps have historically been a great league starter, and they don't require expensive uniques or heavy crafting to kill bosses early. Let's get into some of the pros and cons. So, one pro is great power curve. You get tons of power from your ascends, and cheap early uniques make this build feel great for all gear stages. It is a fantastic league starter. The axe and early mapping are essentially free with this build. When it's time to upgrade, the next pieces are cheap as well. Bossing. So I have killed 6 of 7 Ubers. Exarch is the one I'm the worst at, but I will have him down soon. And some of the other ones I've killed with the level 16 Ice Trap gem. Now for the cons. Defensive-wise, although tankier than many trap builds, it doesn't fully come together until you get determination running, and this can be done earlier or later, whichever one that you prefer. Playstyle, some people love it, some people hate it. It's one of those that's very divisive. Traps are a different feeling from attacking or casting directly. It's more like playing a brand. And notoriously, Chaos Res is a bit hard to get. It's definitely possible to get good Chaos Res, but it takes a little finagling on gear. Let's go over your lab ascendancies. So for normal lab, you're going to be wanting Perfect Crime. It's great damage. It helps with mana sustain, so I take this first. In Cruel Lab, you're going to go with Born in the Shadows. This is a very cozy defensive layer. It blinds everything near you. You get reduced damage taken from blinded enemies, and blinded enemies on hit when you throw your traps from afar. Merciless Lab, we take Pyromaniac. Since we don't have any leech, the regen is pretty big for early mapping, and you get immunity to Ignite and Shock. For Uber Lab, we'll be taking Explosive Expert. This is crit multi, crit strike, Ellie pen, so what's not to love? It's just a pure damage node. Let's get into the gear. When it comes to this build, the gearing is so simple and so nice. One thing to note though is that this build is a little strength starved, so getting an Egg amulet and some strength somewhere else is going to be important, and then eventually you will get a Lethal Pride, which will give you more wiggle room on your strength. So when it comes to the chest, a Tinker Skin is pretty much a no-brainer for a Trapper. It gives you life, it gives you cooldown recovery rate when you throw traps. You have a chance to gain Frenzy, Phasing, recover life and energy shield when you throw traps, and it is a great corrupt target. In my case, I ended up getting a +2 to socketed AoE and 5% life, but you can get +2 to traps. There's percent damage you can get on here. Like, there's so many possibilities, and it is a fairly common chess piece, so you can grab up quite a few to double corrupt if you like. For our gloves, we go for Slave Driver's Hands. They give increased AoE, Power, Frenzy, Endurance charges when our traps are triggered by an enemy, as well as skills which throw traps cost life instead of mana. This allows us to drop Clarity, and combined with our Helm enchant and Enlighten support, this allows us to fit our last big aura. For our helmet, ideally you want an evasion base. Since I was playing this near the end of League, I had to get what I could get, which was an armor evasion base. Here, be sure to get yourself a 30% reservation of either Grace or Determination, as well as the mana reservation efficiency of skills and the cast speed. Boots, again, we want to go evasion, and we're going for the classic life, spell suppress, move speed, resist. You can get some good Eldritch implicits here as well, like action speed, regen, stun threshold, etc. There's a lot of choices. For these particular boots, I decided to be a little cheeky and use an essence to craft Cannot Be Poisoned on. And that has been really nice considering I have low chaos resist. For the weapon, you want a +1 cold wand with some spell damage or percent cold damage and a spell crit chance, as well as an open suffix so you can do the trigger socketed skills. In my case, I ended up going a little more ridiculous, so I got a +1/+1. The spell damage isn't that great, and the crit multi instead of critical strike chance for spells is not exactly what I wanted, but I mean, multi's always good. It is what it is, and it had the open suffix for the trigger spell. For the shield, you're gonna want a +1 to cold spells, some spell damage, some crit strike chance for spells, and I also want an open suffix on this so I can get the 5% chance to deal double damage. Fun fact about my character is I had to take this amulet from my other characters, so it unfortunately does not have any strength. However, I was still able to get the +1 to cold, locked it with prefixes can't be changed, hit it with the crit harvest reforge, fortunately got crit multi, and then crafted on the trap throwing. I could not get life, but that's okay. This is what it is, and it's working out okay for me. For the rings, this is definitely another great place that you can get strength, life, and resist. I would also go for an amethyst base to help out with chaos res if you can get it. It's one of the reses that we are lacking. My rings, I crafted on some strength here. It's got a little bit of life. It's got some pretty good resists. And this one, I ended up going for a -7 cost because it ended up making all my stuff cheaper. And I got strength on this ring as well. Again, a little bit of life. It's a fine ring. I didn't even quality it, and it's been doing just fine for me. For the belt, we want a Stygian belt with life, percent life, resists, and another open suffix so we can do trap throwing speed. You can either go Hunter or you can go Elder on this because both of them give the percent life. For my belt, I also decided to try to craft on some chaos resist with locking my prefixes again and hitting it with a harvest chaos craft, and I ended up with this. You'll want to get a small cluster first, a 3 passive uncompromising or spiteful presence depending on what aura you want next and what's enchanted on your helmet. Mine also has some attributes on it which makes my life a little easier again with the strength. Lethal Pride. All we really want from this is double damage and life. It also gives us some strength on the small notables, which allows for some breathing room on our strength requirements. The medium cluster jewels. So you're either going to go for a 4 or 5 passive here, and there's a couple of options depending on what you're feeling you need for the build. I personally would start with Careful Handling and Guerrilla Tactics. So Careful Handling not only gives you some damage, it gives you some life and mana, and Guerrilla Tactics gives more damage and speed and move speed. So it's really, really solid. For my second one, I decided to go with Guerrilla Tactics again and Surprise Sabotage because, again, Guerrilla Tactics is move speed and Surprise Sabotage is just pure damage. So it was like, I gotta have this. The large cluster jewel has to be an 8 passive, and it must be Blanketed Snow, Prismatic Heart, and Widespread Destruction. Only these exact 3 notables will give you the pathing you need, because as you see, I do not take Widespread Destruction. So we want Prismatic Heart and Blanketed Snow to be at the 2 outsides. If it's too expensive, you can always buy it with more passives at first, and then unspec it later when you can get the Widespread Destruction. And last but not least, the Watcher's Eye. So you will want the Hatred, Crit, plus whatever good secondary. In my case, I went with the Spell Suppress, well affected by Grace, so I didn't have to worry about it so much on my gear. But there are so many options to choose from here. There are Determination options, there are other Hatred options, there's more great, like you have Precision options here. You have a lot of different choices, so you can go wild on whatever the second or even third if you have the money. Honestly, I always thought I'm not a trapper. Traps aren't for me. And boy, was I absolutely kidding myself. I love this build. I really enjoy the feeling of traps. I thought I wouldn't feel like I was doing the damage. You know, like in certain minion builds, there's an aspect of you feeling like you're not doing the damage. But with traps, there's something about it where you feel like I feel powerful. So much so, I am genuinely considering league starting this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like it, let me know in the comments below what you enjoyed about it, if you're looking forward to playing it, if you played a similar build, anything you want to say about it. Definitely consider hitting that subscribe button to see when I post new videos. And thank you so much for watching. Later, guys.